nice way. She really pissed me off. The ball was deep. The ball was like the bounce was wrong, and it was just like the timing, and I was like exhaling, and.
Aryna Sabalenka just went through one of the most painful meltdowns we've ever seen in a Grand Slam final. And yeah, it got ugly fast. And now Wimbledon winner Pat Cash is stepping in, calling her immature and straight up saying she folded under pressure. Former British #1 Annabel Croft didn't hold back either, saying Sabalenka essentially beat herself by completely losing her cool. The world #1 is catching serious heat after coughing up a 3-0 lead in the third set of the Australian Open final. So here's the real question. Was Pat Cash and Annabel Croft's criticism justified? Or are they piling on way too hard, considering this is a player with 4 Grand Slam titles already on her resume? Sabalenka was literally 3 games away from locking up her 3rd Australian Open crown. She had Aryna Sabalenka down 3-0 in the final set, fully in control, dictating everything, looking untouchable. Listen to this. At that moment, it felt like the match was over. And then the wheels came off. She got broken in back-to-back service games, her body language shifted, the composure disappeared, and she eventually dropped the match 4-6, 6-4, 4-6. Now hold up. Former champions are absolutely cooking her in the media over how she handled the pressure. And the criticism, yeah, it's getting ruthless.
Say it in a nice way. She really pissed me off. The ball was deep. The ball was like the bounce was wrong, and it was just like the timing, and I was like exhaling, and it just happened naturally. And then she called it, and I was like, "What is wrong with you?" Like, I think it was a wrong call, but whatever. She really, how do I say it in a nice way? She really pissed me off, and it's actually helped me and benefit my game. I was more aggressive. I was not happy with the call, and it really helped me to get that game. So if she ever want to do it again, go ahead, call it. It's going to help me.
Pat Cash, the 1987 Wimbledon champion, said Sabalenka flat out capitulated and now has plenty to reflect on after that collapse. That's a former Grand Slam winner basically saying, listen to this, she stopped believing and mentally cracked with the finish line right in front of her. Cash made those comments on BBC Radio 5 Live, and trust me, he didn't sugarcoat a thing. He highlighted how dominant Sabalenka was on her first serve in the second set, barely giving away free points. But then, hold up, everything came undone in the third when she couldn't seal the deal. But the sharpest shots came from Annabel Croft, the former British #1 and once ranked world #4. She labeled Sabalenka's behavior immature and said she essentially beat herself in that final set. And yeah, Croft's breakdown was ruthless. She said Sabalenka had clearly taken her game up a level, but couldn't keep pushing forward once there was real resistance on the other side. Then, as she put it, the arms started flying and things turned a little immature out there. She said Sabalenka wasn't handling the moment well at all. She was strutting around and completely lost her composure. That's basically Croft saying Sabalenka unraveled like someone throwing a tantrum once things stopped going her way. The arms flailing line paints a clear picture of a player losing control both physically and emotionally. The strutting around points to body language that screamed frustration and defeat before the match was even finished. And remember, this is coming from someone who's been deep in the pressure cooker herself. So when she says Sabalenka's response was immature, that hits different, especially in that third set, because the collapse was jaw-dropping in the worst possible way. Sabalenka took the first 3 games with authority. She was serving big, ripping her ground strokes, and Rybakina looked like she was starting to fade. Then Rybakina held serve to make it 3-1. Sabalenka stepped up at 3-1 with a break advantage and got broken. That's where the arms started flying, just like Croft said. The frustration was written all over her. Rybakina then held to level the set at 3-3. Sabalenka served again and got broken again. Now Rybakina was serving for the championship at 4-3. She held without much drama. Sabalenka served at 3-5 to stay alive and managed to hold, forcing Rybakina to serve it out. But let's be real, the damage was already done. She'd been broken twice straight after leading 3-0, and the mental collapse was obvious to anyone watching. What made this whole thing especially brutal was the context. This was Sabalenka's fourth straight appearance in an Australian Open final. She had already lifted the trophy in 2024 and 2025. She was chasing a three-peat, something truly historic. She came into the final riding an 11-match win streak and 22 straight sets to open the season, including a title run in Brisbane. Girl, she was playing the best tennis of her entire life. Dominant, overwhelming, running through everyone in her way. And then, when the moment demanded greatness, she choked. Cash saying Sabalenka basically capitulated sounds brutal, but it's not wrong. Capitulate literally means to surrender, to stop fighting, to give in. That's exactly how it looked when she got broken twice in a row after going up 3-0. It felt like she stopped trusting herself, abandoned the game plan that built the lead, and started playing not to lose instead of to win. Champions don't fold like that. Champions figure it out and close the door when they're up 3 games in the final set of a Grand Slam final. Croft's description of panic kicking in and Sabalenka bulldozing in the wrong direction is especially striking. It perfectly captures just how fast everything collapsed. One moment she's cruising toward a third straight Australian Open title. The next, she's spiraling mentally and emotionally as the momentum flips completely. Listen to this. At the elite level, tennis is as much mental as it is physical, and her mindset failed her in spectacular fashion. The immature label stings more because Sabalenka is 27 years old with 4 Grand Slam titles to her name. This isn't a teenager figuring things out on the fly. This is a seasoned champion who should know how to regulate emotions and stay composed when it matters most. Losing control like that, arms flying, strutting around, frustration written all over her, raises real questions about whether she's built the mental toughness needed to consistently win the biggest matches. Sabalenka's Grand Slam final record now sits at 4 wins and 4 losses. She's won 4 and she's lost 4. That's a straight 50% success rate on the sport's biggest stage. For someone with her raw talent and power, that's simply not enough. The true greats, Serena Williams, Steffi Graf, Martina Navratilova, owned finals. They didn't unravel with a lead. Sabalenka is starting to show a pattern of not finishing when the spotlight is brightest. What makes this even more concerning is her recent record in finals across the board. She's dropped 6 of her last 10 finals. That tells you she's elite at getting to the final stage, but struggling to actually close. That's a mental problem, not a skill problem. She has every physical weapon needed to dominate women's tennis. She's got the power, the serve, and the ground strokes. What she's missing is that mental toughness needed to execute when the pressure is suffocating and the opponent starts swinging back. Croft's point about Sabalenka not handling resistance well is the key to all of this. She said Sabalenka reached another gear to race out to 3-0, but couldn't keep pushing forward once there was real resistance on the other side. That means the moment Rybakina raised her level and made things uncomfortable, Sabalenka couldn't sustain hers. Instead of meeting the challenge head-on, she faded. And that's the line between good and great. Great players rise when their opponent rises. Sabalenka didn't. She collapsed. And the timing of this collapse makes it even more damaging. This was the Australian Open, her favorite slam, where she'd already won the previous 2 years. This was Rod Laver Arena, a court where she's dominated before. This was against an opponent she had beaten in the past. Everything was stacked in her favor, and she still choked. That has to spark real questions about whether she can win the biggest matches when the pressure is at its absolute peak. Cash and Croft's words are hitting so hard because they aren't random voices on the sidelines. These are former champions who've lived inside those pressure moments. They know exactly what it takes to win at the highest level, and they're saying Sabalenka doesn't have it mentally. Cash won Wimbledon and reached world number 4. Croft climbed as high as world number 4 as well and competed with the best. When players like that call you immature and say you capitulated, that carries serious weight. Croft saying Sabalenka beat herself up is especially telling. It suggests her biggest opponent wasn't Rybakina, it was her own mind. The player across the net didn't take the match as much as Sabalenka handed it away through poor emotional control and a mental breakdown. In tennis, that's the worst way to lose. Losing because someone outplayed you is understandable. Losing because you mentally imploded is inexcusable for a player of Sabalenka's caliber. And her body language during the collapse told the whole story. The arms flying, the strutting around, the visible frustration, it all sent a message to Rybakina that she was cracking. Smart opponents see that and pounce. Rybakina likely felt the momentum shift and sensed Sabalenka's mental state, which made her job easier. When your body language screams panic, you're gifting your opponent confidence. That immature label is going to sting, because maturity is supposed to come with experience. Sabalenka isn't some rookie figuring things out. She's a 4-time Grand Slam champion who should already have the emotional tools to avoid this kind of collapse. The fact that these breakdowns are still happening in finals points to a deeper issue with how she handles pressure, one that hasn't been solved despite years at the top of the game.